Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll look at the latest border updates that have been coming out for the past 2 weeks. The Australian government has announced its intention to open the international borders for international travelers. At the moment, the international arrivals that are allowed to come into Australia are only for permanent residents and citizens. However, there is likelihood that in the near future, the borders will be open for international students as well as tourists. Let us see more about how this new implementation will work out. The Australian government made a huge announcement on the 1st of November. It said people over the age of 12 who are permanent residents or citizens of Australia can now leave the country without needing to have an exemption to travel overseas. This is great news, particularly for international students and tourists, because it simply means that in the near future, international borders will also open up for temporary visa holders. Apart from the borders being open for permanent residents and citizens to move outside of Australia, there's some great news coming in for permanent residents and citizens stuck in India. They can now come into Australia even if they are vaccinated with Covaxin. Earlier, only Covishield, which is one of the indigenous vaccines manufactured in India, was considered as an approved vaccine. But very recently, Covaxin has also been added to the approved list. Another major border update is regarding the border opening for Singaporean travelers coming into Australia. The borders will be open for fully vaccinated Singaporeans starting from the 21st of November 2021. So this is great news. In the future, it is likely that Singapore may act as a hub for international students who wish to come to Australia, particularly from countries like India, Pakistan and Nepal. Having said that, presently the borders between Singapore and Australia are restricted only for the travel for permanent residents and citizens of Singapore. So we'll have to wait for information if international students can use Singapore as one of the layover hubs. The opening of borders between Singapore and New Zealand and Australia is great news for international travelers, particularly the international students and tourists who wish to come to Australia. So now let us look in deep and detail about the position of various states and territories across Australia regarding the arrival plan for international students. Firstly, let us look at the Australian Capital Territory's position on the arrival of international students. The ACT government announced that it plans to welcome back international students into the ACT territory as early of 2022. It also said that international students who are fully vaccinated with recognized vaccines need not quarantine upon their arrival into Australia. For international students coming in from India, it's great news because now both Covishield and Covaxin are one among the recognized vaccines for COVID-19 in Australia. Moving on, New South Wales announced that in the first phase of the pilot plan to welcome international students, it will have as many as 250 students coming in every fortnight. The students will come into Australia via chartered flights for which the students will have to pay, and there will be no quarantine for international students who are fully vaccinated by recognized and approved vaccines. The pilot plan proposed by the New South Wales government alongside a few universities is probably one of the most well-planned international pilot program for arrivals. It includes universities participating such as University of Sydney, University of Newcastle, University of Wollongong, Macquarie University, UTS and many others. The Victorian government is set to welcome as many as 120 students every week. The Victorian government also said that it will prioritize students who are enrolled into postgraduate studies or students who need to take actual practical work in order to complete their current enrollment. The government is keen on welcoming international students as early as December of 2021. And finally, the South Australian government announced that it plans on welcoming as many as 160 students every fortnight, which means about 320 students every month. However, Western Australia has not made any announcement regarding its international student arrival plans, and we hope to get it very soon. Queensland, on the other hand, has announced that it plans on welcoming international travelers, but it will require them to have mandatory home quarantine even if they are fully vaccinated by the recognized vaccines. The South Australian government was keen, and it announced that once the 90% population is vaccinated, it will be opening up its borders and there will be no quarantine for select travelers, and I hope that happens quickly. There are a lot of discussions happening regarding the international borders in Australia, and there is a lot of speculation that the Australian government may make additional and further announcement in the next 2 weeks. So stay tuned for such news updates. To put it in simple short words, Australia is now very soon going to open up for the Singaporeans as well as New Zealanders who wish to come to Australia. However, the borders are still closed for most of the world, and we hope that it'll all open up soon for international students and tourists. Hope to see you soon.